Welcome back again to the Outer Dimensions podcast with Dave and Trey. Guys, we are back again for another episode, and we'd like to welcome everyone who is actually checking us out on our other social media platforms, our independent YouTube channels, Twitter, and possibly Facebook, and all around the cyberspace. So, welcome to the Outer Dimensions podcast, where we talk about past, present, and future movies and all the various topics. It's just two guys talking about some great times, some great movies, and giving our insights on some past classics. Dre, what are we doing this week?
Today, folks, it is, and we're going to apologize in advance if I get kicked out. My internet has been wonky the last couple days, but wired, it's working, so we're going to hope it stays working. This week, we're doing the Multiverse of Stephen King. So, where does that kind of begin? Well, if anybody is a diehard fan of Stephen King, which I have been since I've been a teenager, he has had this belief that he himself is a conduit into the multiverse. Well, let's before I get into anything, I want to actually say hello, Mega Demon Collection, hello, EC, Colin, and LeBron. All hail the Crimson King. Yes, 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 yes. So obviously, we're gonna make this bigger because there's a lot to unpack in this. So the this is a generic map. If you go to the next page, Dave. All
And
right.
what page it is?
You're missing out, T3. The books are fantastic. I've read several of his books, and that's kind of where you get more of the idea of his multiversal link. And it has been proven on several different fan sites. Stephen King himself has even confirmed this. So as you can see, there are several books, and
Yes.
each book links into the characters and how the characters are actually linked into other parts of what they call the
And
all world.
honestly, I support what Dre said about reading the books. With books, with novels, I mean, that's where the original ideas are coming from. There's more description. When you see a movie, there's things that might be written differently, maybe different dialogue or different scenes are changed around. You don't see fully what the author is trying to get across. I mean, sometimes if you let's say there's a movie adaptation of a movie is adapted into a novel, you get more details because there's no images, so they have to provide more detail, more description to it. And I think that's where a lot of people who just see the movies, you really should read the books first before seeing the movies. And plus you can kind of compare, contrast, see what what differences are made. But honestly, I mean, Stephen King, nobody writes like Stephen King. And I think it was Mark Twain that once said, if you want to know who I am, read my books. Pretty much who I am is right there. And that's, I mean, taking that same concept, that's the best way to know Stephen King is by reading his books. You know, sure, the movies are great and they provide tons, I mean, just hours, if not days of entertainment, but reading books, you get more insight into his mind if you dare. So,
Yes. So currently, I'm reading one of his books on actually how to be a writer, and I love his book. It's my wife actually bought it for me for Christmas. A Cobweb Collector. Um, so this is a Rolando. This is a loose, and I'm saying this because this is like a poster size, like a 5x5, 5 foot by 5 foot, um, like map of the multiverse of the books and how they're tied. So I'm gonna get into a little bit better with a little bit more on the next page. So let's go to the third page. All right. So again, King created his multiverse, much like
and,
Marvel has its multiverse.
mhm.
But King is the center of what he believes is the of his multiverse. He is basically the conduit through which this entity Gan writes through and makes him tell these stories. Now, originally the idea was that the Dark Tower is an entity which lives and is the center of the multiverse. Now, inside of the Dark Tower, there are several floors, and each of those floors has different representations and characters that dwell within them. And there are heroes, there are villains, there are evil entities and good entities. Now, like he says, it says there's 6 beams that are protected by 12 guardians. It is believed that these guardian characters that we see, like the gunslinger,
Mm-hmm.
which is Roland, his character, which is Idris Elba in the Dark Tower, he's one of those knights. There's I think it was not Danny Torrance, but his son is the one from Doctor Sleep. He is another one of these people with the Shining, and it explains how the Shining ties into this. This was like delving into the Marvel multiverse. This was like a 40-page document written by King and other fans that have kind of postulated how these things work, and
Definitely.
It's something that interested me. It definitely, when Dave and I talked about it, it was something that the multiverse of King, it's like one of the few things outside of Marvel Comics I think a lot of people didn't know about unless you saw the Dark Tower. And that's what kind of triggered my interest to deep dive into this.
Definitely.
We're going to explain that one of the movies we wanted to talk about, called The Talisman, which is how you can access the all world. So this multiverse is actually like a dimension briefly shown to us in the Dark Tower movie that people can travel through from other planes.
Well,
So
I would almost compare that to the Bifrost in Marvel.
yes and no. The Bifrost, it's more like the Bifrost is the conduit by which they travel.
Yes.
This is like an actual realm that is got doors, and the doorways lead to other realities.
Yes.
Like you can go to the Pet Cemetery world, the world where Cujo lives, the world where Christine lives, Firestarter, all those different King titles. Now, within that, there are 3 magical items. And I don't want to say magical, they're more like metaphysical properties of these items that allow people to traverse from their plane of existence to the all world. And the talisman is one of them. Now, sadly, we were not able to watch the talisman because when you look up the talisman, there is a Walter Jones, yes, the Black Ranger, was in a series which I had completely messed up because he was not. That was not the Stephen King movie. It wasn't even anything about this. That was something completely different.
Yes.
So the Talisman movie was a TV movie made in 1998, and that movie is like nowhere to be found. So upon deep diving, I found out the Duffer Brothers and Steven Spielberg rumored. I'm going to say that because it's rumored. I don't want to get quoted, but on a few different sites it mentioned. Sorry, again, I know my internet's crazy, so I'm going to be. This is the Multiverse of King. He's accessing my internet to kick me in and out from telling his story.
No, it's Walter.
So yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to use The Shining to like get to Dave. In any event, the Duffer Brothers are obviously, everybody knows who they are. If you have not watched, Stranger Things, I mean,
Yeah.
that's their thing, and they're huge fans of Stephen King, and they're going to be doing a television series for Netflix due out next summer.
Maybe later with the writers and actors strike,
And
potentially speaking.
so it was slated to start production late this year into early next year to finish up for the fall of 2024. I'm probably going to assume we're not going to see this till 2025. So
That's a fair estimate right there.
that's a fair estimate. Now, the Talisman book series is interesting because I did a little bit of a dive into it. It's got access to bringing up characters like the main character Jack in this book, The Talisman.
Jack Chambers.
Yes.
Ironically, Jack Chambers.
Hey,
Because,
man, I'm sorry. I just read your comment. I'm sorry you're feeling like poop. The C virus sucks. I hope you feel better. And
Duff, before going any further, Um, well wishes out to Duffman and also to our brother Captain Spaulding is currently in the hospital, and all of our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. Those are two amazing supporters of the Outer Dimensions podcast and our independent channels as well. So we just want to show a little bit of love to them, and also a little reminder to everyone who's watching us and those who are listening to us on the Outer Dimensions podcast through Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. By the way, we this past week we just recently updated with a new upload of 5 more episodes, and Dre has been expanding our platform to a few other podcasts platforms, so you guys can find us anywhere. You have 10 episodes to choose from to listen to us. But also, I apologize to anyone who's listening to us on Spotify or any podcast that you do not see the infographics that we have up on the screen, our obligatory cheat sheet that we use every week for visual aid. We do apologize that you're not able to see that, but we're going to be uploading those images on our Instagram and possibly Twitter, so you guys can go ahead and check that out, and you can see the map of the multi Kingverse. So
Yeah,
there we go.
but yeah. So I do want to say thank you, Duff, for coming through. I do hope you feel better. Collecting Star Wars, thank you, man. We with the cool kids, bro. It's always cool. So again, Jack is a kid that his mother's dying of cancer, and he's trying to find a way to help bring her back to save her from cancer. He ends up finding this magical item called the talisman, and the talisman can takes him to All World, where he actually has an encounter with a character, a female character, and that female character is briefly they have a run in. The two of them have a run in with the lone gunslinger, who is also, if you guys did not know, the cowboy gunslinger from the Dark Tower. So it's a great book. I've only read excerpts of it, so it's one that I would like to. I have an interest in actually getting my hands on and reading. And Black House is its sequel. So I did not look into Black House what it's about, but I do know the sequel book only is about. It's old. It's 23 years old or 22 years old. So I have to read both these books. But again, the big news is that it's going to be a miniseries. It was supposed to be a movie, but they're turning it into a miniseries. Again, this is information I got from like Bleeding Cool News, Ain't It Cool News, comicbook.com, and as well as Stephen King's personal website. So, and the Duffer's personal website. So I did do a little bit of digging to make sure my sources are correct. I don't want to ever have you guys doubt what we find. So I guess let's go on to the next page.
The
And
next page.
so, again, for those of you listening on the podcast, we appreciate you. I know that, like I said, you don't get to really see these cheat sheets, but if Dave and I will probably be able to cut these and turn these into like a JPEG, and you can actually be able to look at them on our Twitter. You gotta love my internet connection. So it's my internet, folks. I apologize. It'll be fixed. It'll be fixed by tomorrow.
So Dark Tower was an
Wait,
adaptation that came out in 2017, starring.
Collecting Star Wars. If the Duffer Brothers are doing it, it's going to be set in the 80s. Not necessarily. The book, the book, The Talisman, takes place in the 80s. I'm assuming that if they follow it, it will be an 80s themed, and they'll keep it that way. Yeah, Chris, listen, I can't help it. It's Walter. He's keeping me out. It's Pennywise. They're like, they don't want me to mess in the multiverse. They don't like me screwing around with it. So I apologize. But this movie, I will say this before I let Dave go on, and I apologize for being rude to cut him off. I don't like doing that.
Yes, he does.
This movie got a lot of crap, but I actually enjoyed this movie. Rewatching it was a lot of fun. It's a short film, but I will make a comment about it afterwards, because as a guy who has kids, I can't believe this was considered a kid's series, a kid's children's book. But go ahead.
So, just so everyone knows, this starred Idris Elba, who, I mean, he would be like, you could see him at home in an old Western with the likes of Eastwood, John Wayne, he fits perfect in a gunslinger Wild West type setting, and I hope that he does more movies like that. But I will say this starred Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey,
Hey, hey, hey.
hey. All right.
All right,
And
all right.
Jackie Earl Haley. Now, if anyone does not exactly wait a minute, that name sounds familiar.
It's
I
Rorschach.
mean, what?
That's Rorschach.
No, you got to go back further. Bad News Bears.
Bad News Bears. That's
He
true.
goes all the way back to Bad News Bears. He had a small part in The Warriors.
He did.
I mean, he has appeared, and in fact, those that might recall, there was an attempt at doing a reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street. He was Krueger,
Yes, he was. He was Freddy Krueger.
and he was also a bit of an a-hole in the RoboCop reboots.
Yes, he is. He's the guy that
He's
beats up
appeared in a
RoboCop.
lot of different things. We get Tom Taylor and Claudia Kim. You might recognize a few other people from various sci-fi and fantasy movie series. Anything that came out of basically Canada, Vancouver. There's a
Mhm.
lot of actors that you'll notice and recognize in here. Honestly, before we go into the stats, and by the way, those who are watching us live or on replay on YouTube or anywhere, you'll see all the info stats here that Dre has. He does so much work putting our cheat sheet, giving it life. But honestly, like Dre said, this was a short movie. Hell, Amazon, if you're listening, okay, Amazon, Bezos, if you're listening, make this into a damn series. This would have been great as a TV show, and they could have
It,
stretched the friggin' hell out of it.
base it off the graphic novel, which is
Yes.
based on the novel, which I got for my birthday from my wife and my kids. That would be freaking awesome.
Freaking SME. There you go.
And you're right. Yay, Canada for you, Chris. That's a shout
Yeah.
out to you, our local Canuck.
Well, I'm kind of Canadian adjacent since I'm in, the Buffalo, New York, Niagara Falls area on the U.S. side. I go over to Canada all the time. So
So yeah, Dave's kind of like an honorary
Ti-
Canadian.
Timmy Hose for life, man. Anyone that doesn't know Timmy Hose, Tim Hortons. If you know, you know. But
Tim wants some coffee.
hey, no, the Timbits, man. It's all about the donuts. But I mean, the thing is, I mean, this movie, it is short and they cram a bunch into it. It'd be great to get a little bit more background on the story. And by the way, one person who doesn't get names in the credits here, who very briefly in there, but plays a strong part, is Mr. Allstate himself,
Yeah,
who plays Roland's father, gets taken out by Walter. Walter is Matthew McConaughey. I mean, long story short, Matthew McConaughey is the big bad of the show, big
he's
bad
the
of the
Man in Black.
movie.
Basically,
You know,
that's his character. If you didn't read the books, so I'll just jump in before the internet tries to take me out again. The the villain in this story, Man in Black, who's supposedly a demon, believed to be. See, he took me out. The
see,
Man in Black took me out. I see you, McConaughey. Um,
all right.
all right. Yeah, my wife likes the Lincoln Lawyer, and he takes me out. So,
I'm sure she liked the Lincoln Lawyer.
oh, she watches the show like religiously. Like she watches it on Netflix and everything. So, the Man in Black is the villain, and he likes to
Yes.
collect souls. Now, the gunslinger is. Here's where I'm at. The gunslinger is supposed to be thought of as a knight who actually wears armor,
Yes.
and he wears a cowboy outfit. Now, the problem is a lot of fans, diehard King fans, did not like the fact that they casted a black man to be the gunslinger.
Before you go
Because,
any further, to those people, respectfully, and I might piss a few people off, y'all can kiss my ass.
oh, I agree. They can kiss my. He's
Because
perfect.
I can't, after, reading the book, but also watching the movie, I can't think of a better person for this role,
Now, with that being said,
respectfully speaking. So,
exactly. Respectfully speaking to Stephen King, I know he has no racist bone in his body,
no.
but I will state that for a character who is supposed to be a white man and who actually makes several derogatory comments about slaves and slavery
Hmm.
throughout the book and the graphic novel. You're kind of like you like the fact that the gunslinger is actually a good guy, because the way the graphic novel kind of portrays him, he's kind of a douche. And the
Well,
book, he's kind of a like, you don't really want to like him, but
well, I,
here you grow to like Roland's character as Idris Elba. That's what I personally feel.
I'm going to say this. Okay, I'm going to say this about that. One, when it comes to stories, and now I can't recall the exact year Stephen King might have written this, but one, we're all products of our upbringings and our societies that we grew up in. Okay, I grew up in the east side of Buffalo. Okay, where it's a mixed culture. Okay, it's very urban, very I'm trying to find the right words to describe it, but I mean, if you get someone who grew up solely in the South, and maybe in their towns or their townships or their neighborhoods, or maybe in their own damn families, they might have had people who use certain terms, and that just it isn't specifically who they are, but it's a part of their habitat of growing up, their society. Some people say soda, some people say pop. You know,
So just
some people have eaten grits and some people haven't. Okay, I'm
I
just
want to say
saying.
hi to Legacy and Nerd, and yeah, Chris, it is funny. You're going to see me popping in and out until my internet's fixed tomorrow.
Hey, what's up, Daniel?
So I will state this, that you guys want to know the dates. The book that we are talking about, not the Dark Tower, but the Dark Tower was a series of 5 short stories.
Mm-hmm.
This one with the Dark Tower, in particular with the gunslinger character, was made in 1982, released on June 10th, 1982, and it is a kind of a refix, a retooling of
Mm-hmm.
the 5 short stories put into one. And this is a dark fantasy series. So this
Well,
was King's attempt at doing
wasn't Green Mile kind of the same way?
Green Mile was more
Was
not
it was a multi-book series, wasn't it? It was more
it
than
was a,
one book.
yeah, it was a couple books, but it was more short stories, like novellas,
Mm-hmm.
and then he put it into a collected edition,
Yeah.
which is also why The Fog was the movie that he did. The Fog, that
Yes.
was the novella that was then cast as a movie. So there's been a lot of, if you read a lot of King, has written several smaller things that we like, the Langoliers, which was again a TV series with Bronson Pinchot being the villain.
Yeah, I was just thinking Bronson Pinchot, the kid from Manhattan Project was in there.
Yeah,
Was
it was
Lithgow in
crazy.
there? No, I
Lithgow,
don't
yeah,
think it was.
Lithgow was the hero.
Dean Stockman was in there. There's a whole bunch of people
Dean
that were in
Stockman
there.
was one of the villains. Lithgow
Yeah.
was the hero, and Bronson Pinchot was the freaking, like, their version of the Langolier, the demon, the entity.
Yeah.
So I will never forget that. That was a great series on ABC. They killed it. King,
Yeah.
like, I'm biased,
I
but
mean, that was the thing back in the 80s. We got a ton of Stephen King adapted to ABC for miniseries. Langoliers, I believe, was actually on NBC, if memory serves correctly, but The Shining, or not The Shining, but Pennywise, it
uh,
with Tim Curry was on ABC because he had the likes of John Ritter and a few others in there.
I think you are
We
correct.
had
I'd have
John
I'd have
Boy.
to see his movie.
I can't think of his real name, but the guy who played John Boy in the Waltons way back when was also in that as well.
Mm-hmm,
Um, Annette Benning, or not Annette Benning, but Annette O'Toole
mm-hmm.
from Smallville and Superman 2 fame and a whole host of other stuff. But I mean, in the 80s, I mean, believe it or not, Stephen King novels being adapted into miniseries was like a regular damn thing.
Yeah, because yeah, remember, he is, to many fans that love horror.
Yes.
Uh, go have fun. Catch us on the replay, Chris. Go have fun with your son.
Yep.
Um, so why is this particular movie, which I can go into the whole concept, why is this part of the multiverse? Well, the Guardian is the gunslinger. He is a guardian tasked with traversing all of. Now, All World, if you watch this movie very closely, it's short, but there is a scene where they fall through a portal
Mm-hmm.
on top of a Pennywise sign.
Yes.
And you see the Pennywise sign, which is obviously a nod to Pennywise existing, and this is from the carnival that Pennywise in the original Tim Curry iteration that we now then later on it becomes the remake of Stephen King.
Yes.
There's also a nod to Pet Cemetery in this movie. There
Hmm.
is a nod to
Well,
a
also
sign
The
from,
Shining, because they use the word shine,
well,
because Jake Chambers, because and I apologize for interrupting Dre there. But one thing that Walter's trying to do is he's trying to bring down the tower so that basically his monsters, his creatures, his brood, if you will, his army and minions can exist can basically break down the barriers of all the world. So basically bringing the universe crashing down so darkness and evil can reign supreme, so to speak. But he seeks out kids who have a shine, and he uses them like batteries with this big weapon that shoots it basically across the Kingverse, if you will, to strike the tower. Once the tower breaks down, it's going to break down the walls of all the different realms and universes. Well, Jake happens to be, well, he's like the culmination. He's like a never ending power cell. I mean, he's that powerful that he probably could take out Danny Torrance without flinching. At if he ever reaches his peak, that's how powerful this kid is. And I mean, it's so crazy and weird to see like some, because if you've seen Stephen King movies like Cujo, Christine, we've never seen anything on this kind of scope, breaking down worlds and dimensions. No pun intended. I mean,
even
it's
Firestarter didn't even get into that,
yeah.
which
I mean, this is like this takes Stephen King storytelling to like MCU level type craziness. I mean, this is something we might see in Marvel. This might be something we would see in maybe a sci-fi channel miniseries of some kind. This is something on a scope we've never even seen. So the fact that we have portals and we have people who are almost Matrix like watching other dimensions and tracking information from other realms, we've never seen this in any type of scope in a Stephen King story. So he definitely cranked it up to 11.
I want to see it versus a kid. I honestly, there was a kid that had the shine in it in the in chapter 2 and
Mm-hmm.
in chapter 1. If you watched it chapter 1 and chapter 2, there's mention of the shine from one of the kids in the group that's in the team. They has the shine because he makes a brief mention that he has an ability, but they don't ever go into any other details of it,
Yeah.
which is in the next movie we talk about, which we're not going to get to right now, but when we get to that, this introduces us to every.
Damn it, Walter.
I know it introduces us to every major facet of the King universe, from the Shine to creatures that are actually able to traverse the multiverse without, like, because we all believe that like these worlds aren't linked. They are, and they're linked not just by the Shine but by their events. Because if you look at it, they mention the Shining, the
Mm-hmm.
events of the Shining in it. Like there was talk about, oh yeah, we heard of those people out in Colorado and what happened there. Oh, they've heard about Pennywise. They've heard about Cujo. There's like, King is so intricate in telling the story and interwoven these elaborate like fixes that you were like, holy crap, this really does exist. Like I said, the Pet Cemetery reference. There's the mention to The Shining where you actually see the hotel sign like
Yep.
in the pile, and they're just walking over it. But it's something like, for me as a fan, I was like, holy shit, like I'm seeing this. And I remember like when I suggested this movie for Dave, I was like, he's gonna catch this too, because if you pause, you'll see.
Well, I remember watching the movie in the theater when it first came out, And it took some convincing for my wife because she does not like horror movies at all. And I'm like, this is going to be more of a sci-fi kind of action element, and it really plays that way too.
Yeah, it doesn't. This one actually plays more into the dark fantasy sci-fi aspect of it than it does his horror.
Yeah,
Because the Man in Black, yet granted, he is a pretty evil villain, and you get that vibe of like, oh my god, he is immensely evil and powerful. But you get like a mysticism to it more than anything else, and that would be a cool kind of what if fight.
now
What would Danny Torrance do if he had to fight Pennywise? Well, we also know Pennywise is an alien entity that exists outside of Earth, and it's more like a Cthulhu style alien. You can't really kill him; you can contain him.
yeah, I mean, and those who are watching or listening to this and you're hearing us talk about the gunslinger is not the only one fighting here. Jake is. At one point, the gunslinger talks, is showing him, how to shoot, but he says, "You're not going to use a gun. Your weapon is your shine." And there's a quote because there's kind of a mantra that gunslingers, plural, will use that I do not aim with my hand. He who aims with his hand has forgotten his father's face. I aim with my eye. I do not shoot with my hand. He who shoots with his hand has forgotten his father's face. I shoot with my mind. And it goes on and on. I do not kill with a gun. I kill with my heart. It's like, it's just like, it is kind of like,
It's like
okay,
a knight's mantra. It's like
it's like
samurai's
a knight's or
bushido.
like a Ronin's, because really, I mean, I feel Roland is more like a Ronin because he's
Yeah, he's
lost
got
his
his code of
people.
bushido. He's got
Yeah.
his honor code.
Well, I mean, from the point where his father is gone, his family is gone, everyone who has walked with him has died, and Walter keeps reminding him about it. See, him and Walter are like Obi-Wan and Vader,
Yep.
you know, but because Vader will kill everyone around Obi-Wan, so he is by himself. That that is what Walter thrives on. Like, Roland is a toy to him at times. But then, Roland meets Jake because Jake is escaping these people who he's been having visions of Walter and Roland for maybe a year or two. The kid's been having these visions that are taking place in another dimension altogether. That's how damn powerful this kid is. And eventually, it goes to throwdown time. We start to see some of the scope that this like 12-year-old kid has. And imagine he gets older and really focuses and learns it. I'm like, that's why I wish this could be adapted into a TV series because it has a lot of potential.
I honestly, if I had to model this after anything, I would model what they're doing in Sweet Tooth on Netflix to be after this. Like this would be something like Sweet Tooth, which I love that show. I love the grab. I love, but I'm also again
I'm
Jeff
sorry,
Lemire.
when you said Sweet Tooth, I was thinking Twisted Metal. Sorry. And Dre drops off. There he is. He's back again.
I'm back. Yeah, I know. Twisted Metal. The honestly, with Sweet Tooth, when you look at Jeff Lemire, who I think is a fantastic comic book author, I love his stuff. I mean, he is basically to me the modern day king. If you're looking at something with an intricate story that he's writing currently right now, the Mythos Saga, which is a comic book anthology series of horror elements all linked in one world. And he just started a new series called Fish Flies, which is tied into that mythos. And those three books that they put out are freaking. No, it's my internet, Daniel. It's like I was mentioning before. I apologize at the beginning of the stream to people listening. They're listening is not going to make a difference, but for
Yeah,
those watching,
Daniel, Zed keeps trying to pull him into the dark dimension, but we keep pulling him back. Don't worry about it.
yeah, I keep getting dragged back in, you know. But one thing I do want, I want to bring it a little into why this movie was really shit talked a lot, and then we'll. I no, my background's not changed. It's literally I'm just sitting in my chair. My daughter's asleep on the couch, so this is where my desk is now. I moved it from where it once was, but This movie to many fans scored badly, badly. And I'm gonna, like I said, you guys know I look at my aggregator sites and I love doing the crunching the numbers. But man, when you get a 4.1 out of 10 and you get a 15% Rotten Tomatoes, you're like, eh. And now, granted, the Rotten Tomatoes 15% is only 15% based on what they have as the reviews, and that's a high number of reviews to get such a low percentage. Because I had to like look at other aggregator sites like Metacritic and IGN and a couple others, but damn, 262 reviews and you get 15%. It was all saying the same thing. They said it did not tie into the original story, which it really doesn't. But again, this is, if you notice, King did not have a hand in this movie.
No.
That's why a lot of people were upset because it is somebody else telling his story. So that's one. Two, I get that it's, Dave said it best. This is an MCU level event in one movie without a lot of background. They expected people that walked into this movie that were fans of King to know the multiversal links already. Now, I think Idris Elba, and I agree with Eric Vesp, he did a great job. Like, you cannot blame an actor for the director and producers and the writer's story because that's their vision. All they tell you is, here's the character. And Idris Elba did a great job. Like Dave and I both said, McConaughey kills it as the Man in Black as a villain.
McConaughey is just awesome as a bad guy
He's
in
just a great
general.
actor. And when you see him in the role of the villain, it's just, you're like, damn. And then you see Idris Elba, who is the quintessential knight in shining armor, Ronin, which I think that'd be the best way to call him, like the Ronin gunslinger he is.
Roland the Ronin. So there you go.
And the bond that he forms with Jake, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of positives.
I mean,
Now,
Jake doesn't have a father. His father died a few years back. His mother has like a boyfriend or like a husband or whatever, but he doesn't treat Jake like his son. Treats Jake like a burden. So really, Jake doesn't have a father figure until there's these bad guys who want to take him to a hospital for testing, but they're really going to kidnap him and take him to McConaughey. Jake feels that he just knows that these guys are bad because he's been having nightmares about these people. He goes on the run and he finds that there's this weird house that he's been searching for. He goes to this house. It's an old broken down house, and it happens to have one of these gates, one of these doors to another dimension. And it's 1919, I believe, is the actual coordinates. And he jumps to this world, and he's like in this kind of like desert wasteland, and eventually happens across Roland, and that's when they meet. And it's just Roland it's basically he's really the father figure, and he doesn't want anything to do with Jake at first, but that's some of the best stories that way. And eventually they go on kind of a, I'm going to call it an,
whirlwind adventure.
well, no, I was going to say last action hero style adventure.
Well, I was thinking donkey, and
Don't get, but I mean, there is a point where Roland goes with Jake back to our Earth, which they call Keystone Earth. And he's kind of a fish out of water. He doesn't know what pop is. He's like, what is this? What is this? And Jake says, oh, it's sugar. And later on, he's like, is there more of the sugar? And like, he's wounded and he's badly beaten from battle from the other world. They take him to a hospital. He's like, I haven't felt this great in years. And he's like, yeah, he's like, this medicine. He's like, yeah, we have great stuff here, especially when the painkillers kicking in, and he's really feeling good.
oh, yeah. Which I like, that there is a diversity of the understanding that the realms are different, and that the keystone concept for Earth obviously is like how we have Earth 616 in the Marvel, which is
Yes.
Prime, you know, and Or I don't want to call it Earth 616 because technically Spider-Man exists in the same Earth as us, but they called it in Across the Spider-Verse 19999.
Well,
So
it's like, hey, for us, our world is Earth Prime, but to someone else, their world is Earth Prime. Hey,
so yeah, so
that's
this
kind
is
of how it is.
so Keystone Earth is this is what we is the prime where everything kind of converges. So I like that. But again, this I get why they consider it a children's series. Well, originally when I first read it, I was like, "There's no way." But when you look at kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? When you look at it from the through the eyes of this lens, you can see why you can say this is a good children's series, like a young adult.
Well,
I
I
wouldn't
mean,
call it a
it's not as
kids.
gory as some Stephen Kings out there.
It's not Cujo.
Yeah,
It's not Christine. It's not
Pet
Pet
Cemetery.
Cemetery. It's not Lord Help Me. It's not it. I mean, that ruined me. So again,
Well, even Misery.
or Misery. Oh Lord. Or I'm trying to think. The Fog.
This is
Or
probably the most kid
Langoliers.
friendly of Stephen King.
And I would say the next movie we discuss is also a little kid friendly because again, I noticed that there is an interesting dichotomy between both these films. That there are young preteen to teenagers that have the shine.
Young protagonists, young heroes, so to speak.
Exactly. With a person that's kind of their
Their
mentor
guardian.
and their guardian. So that's one of the cool things I like about this. So you'll see this progress, this kind of story like permeate this. Again, let's do the basic numbers here real quick. $66 million budget. You know you're paying a majority of that to McConaughey because McConaughey is
All
the
right,
main,
right.
and Idris Elba. I mean, he demands a fair amount of money. He was already in
Yeah,
Thor.
and
He was Heimdall.
they almost doubled their money, but who knows what they did in DVD sales? I'm sure they
DVD
made money
sales
there.
were.
I know I bought the DVD once upon a time.
I have it on DVD. I don't. I didn't pull up the DVD numbers. I was about to though. I was looking into it. Um, but again, for a movie that's so short and it doubled its thing, the problem with it not wanting to warrant a sequel was because, and I think it holds true. King didn't sign on to it.
Yeah,
King signs on to every film he does. When
I
he
mean
was
it would have been cool to see him do a cameo or something.
he didn't do a
Like he's done
cameo.
in a few films.
Well, he was in It Chapter One. He was in
Yeah,
It Chapter Two. He was in Doctor Sleep. He
yeah.
he wasn't in. Yeah, this is one of the first ones he wasn't in.
Of course, like you said, he didn't sign on to it, and also I don't recall a whole lot of promoting for this.
This was one of those movies that suffered a lot because of what was going on in 2017. A lot of people don't realize that 2017 was a big year for movies. That was Avengers Endgame Part 1.
Yeah,
You know, you're looking at Part 1 of,
and now we have part 2 of Dre.
and you got Part 2 of me. You're looking at, I'm trying to think, you have, Lord, there was a lot of movies in 2017 that were, let me just do a quick little deep
Little
dive,
Xenops.
2017.
But I mean, to me, I mean, it's an awesome story. It could have been. I mean, as much as this is, they easily could have stretched this out
Oh,
over a few seasons.
all
And
right.
uh, spoiler alert, those who haven't seen it, you know, they do kind of take out the big bad. But what happens when you take out a big bad? Think of like crime movies. You take out a mobster, there's going to be a power vacuum, and someone else is going to rise up, right? So obviously there could be an even bigger big bad than McConaughey in the future of it. I mean, there's a lot of potential, and obviously Jake's mother is killed, so he has no one, and he kind of goes, basically Roland says, "Well, you could come back with me. You have no one here. You have nothing here." You know, obviously Roland would be teaching him to be a gunslinger in addition to having a shine power.
All right, so just a quick recap of 2017's films.
Hit us.
All right, so let's start with some of the big geeky ones. The Last Jedi. Biggest one right there. Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Big, but not necessarily great, depending on your point of view.
The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Friggin' hilarious.
The Kingsman, The Golden Circle. That was
Yes.
the prequel film. You have The Shape of Water. You have
Isn't it round?
Thor Ragnarok. Kong Skull
Okay.
Island.
Yep.
Coco. Alien Covenant. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, which we're going to do a review on that in this channel. Wonder Woman. Justice League. Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Men Tell No Tales. Logan. The Mummy with Tom Cruise.
So a lot of comic book, a lot of special effects, a lot
I'm
of
not finished. Let me give you the good. I'm still getting through. These are the made. I'm going through a lot. Beauty and the Beast, the musical. John Wick Chapter 2. What was it here? Spider-Man Homecoming. Jigsaw. Murder on the Orient Express. The Greatest Showman. It Chapter 1. Transformers The Last Night. Get Out. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Blade Runner 2049. And Dunkirk.
So a lot of big budget movies, a lot of grand scale movies that I think Dark Tower just got lost in the shuffle with it.
There was no way for it to compete. I mean, you're looking at just in what we named. That was the summer. That summer that year, I saw Homecoming. I remember that was when I saw it in. I was in Raleigh, and I saw it in Raleigh, and that movie was. I mean, it's Homecoming. It's Spider Man. You know, you got Guardians Volume 2. I mean, there was. You're talking. It was a year of sequels, setup movies. I mean, it was. This was the setup.
The first Wonder Woman movie.
Justice League came out
The
that year.
scale itself is
came out that year.
just mind blowing. The scale of that movie. Justice League. Well, there are arguments that can be made about that, depending on.
We all know the Snyderverse cut. The Snyder cut, the 8-hour cut, was the way better movie to watch.
Yeah, it kills it.
It blows it out the water. I don't even count.
I mean, John Wick 2. I mean,
better than the first one.
And I mean, it's, what can you say? I mean, John Wick.
Hell, I feel when Baywatch.
You mentioned Kong Skull Island, good movie.
Great, and that opened up the monster. That opened up the MonsterVerse for what we have now with Godzilla.
Well, I call it the Kaiju verse. That's just me.
No, the Kaiju verse. You have to be careful because that's Peter Jackson, not Peter Jackson. That's Guillermo del Toro.
It depends.
The Jaegers in the Pac Rim universe.
Speaking of Idris Elba, what?
Again, another. See, you could tie. So, all in all, I feel like this movie is a fantastic film that didn't get enough recognition because it gets lost in the shuffle. And like I said,
I mean, it's a fun watch, but also I feel like from rewatching it, you feel like maybe there's too much kind of crammed in. Like they're trying to give you too much, and I think the information gets lost, and the meaning behind that information gets lost. So I think that's one way that it kind of suffers. Now, if there was a director's cut or extended cut of this, could that help solve it? Maybe if it was adding on another, I'll be kind and say, let's say another 40 minutes, 40 or 45 minutes, they could have added more scope to it. But I doubt that was even the case, especially since, like you said, King was not even involved with this. I think if Stephen King was involved with it, we would have had a slightly different story, maybe more substance to it. I think maybe that's the word I'm looking for, that it was lacking substance or lacking they were just throwing too much at you. Like we get a very brief introduction to Roland and his father before his father's taken out by Walter. We don't really find out really what's going on except briefly through the eyes of Jake. And it's not, Jake's been dreaming about this for like the past year, but we don't get that information. We just get that, he's been drawing about a gunslinger and a man in black. And there's these weird earthquakes that are happening in New York City, but there's nobody knows why. With all the science that we have in our world, we don't have one damn foggy idea why there's earthquakes happening in New York City, which happens to coincide with every attack on the Dark Tower.
Also, this takes place outside of King's usual Maine. which we all
Yeah.
know everything has a spot tied to Maine and or twists around the
Salem's Lot.
the Salem's Lot, the events in that area, which is because again, if you are a fan of the metaphysical and the odd paranormal, ley lines, like that area of Maine is very hot. It's a hotbed for activity, and
Well, I mean, in New York City in 1984, there was a cross rip of dimensional proportions, but
I
we
mean,
won't go
there
there.
was a very large marshmallow man walked around. I do know that.
And,
But
well, technically speaking, there are a few fault lines that run through New York State, but they're basically dormant. They almost never have any kind of activity whatsoever.
exactly, that's what I'm saying. When we were talking ley lines, though, which Dave knows what I mean by ley lines, if you
Yes.
saw Ghostbusters Afterlife, you know that there's maps across the entire globe, and Doctor Strange explained this to us, which is where magic and the paranormal meld.
Yeah, when
So,
you have ley lines that can intersect, that's where your hotbeds of activity can arise periodically.
so again, I'm going to say that this movie, in my personal opinion, gets a lot better than a 4 out of 10 or
Yeah.
4.1. I would give this movie, at least because of the fact that we don't have the background knowledge, or I did, but other people did not, I would give this movie a 7 out of 10.
Okay. I'm almost there. I'm respectively around because I'm biased because I love the, the story of the gunslinger. And I wish we could have gotten more information, more story of him. Because we don't know that he's lost all these people except when Walter reminds him,
Hey, Vader's girl.
or when Walter Vader's girl. Hey, Kat. By the way, anyone, Rolando or someone is in the chat, could you drop that link for that event that's happening? There's a fundraising event to help. There's like a GoFundMe to help out Kat. So if anyone is in the chat that has that link, I want you to drop that in the chat to help out with the expenses for medical bills. So anyone's got that link, I think LeBron and a few others have those links. If you happen to have it, drop it in chat, please. Um, but going back to what I was saying, I mean, we only get that as kind of exposition.
Hmm.
Like, oh, like McConaughey's telling Jake, everyone who walks with the gunslinger, perishes, they die. Or like he's taunting Roland and says, anyone who travels with you or walks with you, they all wind up dead. And it's like, it's, we get that verbally, but we don't have like, I mean, they could have thrown in flashes of this person or this person with Roland getting struck down. We don't even get that. So respectfully, I'm throwing a 6.5 at this. Not even a 7, but a 6.5 because, like you said, it's not the actor's fault. It's the storytelling through the producers and the writers, but also I'm going to say probably more of the producers and the directors because them in the studio, they're the ones that probably cut out a lot of the script and shortened the hell out of this movie. At least as far as I view it.
I will say this.
I would love to see the original script.
I would too. But I'm going to state this as an interesting little caveat. King not being a part of this film also meant
Definitely heard it.
it hurt it. But here's an interesting thing. All It Chapter 1 came out the same year. It Chapter 1 blew its budget out of the water. It blew with the take home at the box office.
Yep.
And King was in that movie, and it was over 2+ hours
Yes.
with tons of exposition. There was
Having
tons of
if a
backstory.
movie gets a blessing from its creators or from its originators, that goes a long way. In fact, I read a story today that Stanley Kubrick said that he should have directed the second Blade Runner. He regrets not doing that job.
And there's
So
also that's it's funny you bring up Kubrick because when you bring up the next movie, which I think was an interesting segue, good job,
Doctor Sleep.
Doctor Sleep. Now, obviously, I am a huge, huge, huge fan of Ewan McGregor. He is my
Yes.
absolute favorite Jedi. I love
Hello
him.
there.
He is a great. I followed his career ever since Train Spotting and I am a huge fan of his music that he did outside of the realm of Star Wars. So
Hmm.
let's just jump into this. This is November 8th, 2019. This movie was released.
Hmm.
Again, this was a movie that was a sleeper hit, no pun intended. This movie came out where there was not a lot of advertising for it. I remember seeing one couple clips on YouTube. That was it. And
Yeah,
now look at the cast you have. You have
I
Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson. Now Rebecca
yeah,
Ferguson, Ewan McGregor himself carries the role because guess what? He's freaking Obi-Wan. You can't beat that. But then you
and
have Rebecca
he
Ferguson,
truly is Obi-Wan by the end of the film. Let's just say.
yeah, and then you have Rebecca Ferguson, who has built her name on the last few freaking Mission Impossible movies. So you have two characters that are iconic in action franchises outside of a horror franchise.
Now,
And then you
I
have go
I
ahead.
gotta say this about Rebecca Ferguson. I did not watch this movie until just the other day. Okay, so no pun intended, I slept on Doctor Sleep until I watched it for our stream here. Thank you, Rolando. This is what we're talking about. Anyone who is watching this, please go to the chat, go to that link, and please help support this initiative, this GoFundMe to help out Vader Girl with her bills and her medical. She is a great friend of the community of my channel personally. She's always popping in. She does amazing streams on her own channel, so please go and support her out. Um, you know, these communities were great about hanging out, having a great time, but if we can ever give back, all it takes is one little click and you can make a world of difference, guys. So please go and do that.
And if you really can't afford the GoFundMe, folks,
At
at
least share
least
it.
if you can share it because that helps a lot. There are people that can give, so I do want to state that. So
Yeah.
Vader Girl,
I mean,
if I could,
yeah.
I would, but I will share it out on my socials. So I'll post it on my
It's
Facebook.
great if you can give a few bucks, but if you don't, if you can give a few minutes of your time, it goes a long way, guys.
So don't worry, Vader Girl, I got you. I'll put you out on my socials. So let's talk about this. So obviously Cliff Curtis,
Yep.
famous but not like by any means. Kylie Curran, to this is the who I really call the MVP of this movie because she is the one that has the shine. Now,
Yes.
obviously, we're gonna before we even get into this as a teacher, my brain says we have to give you the background knowledge. So for those of you that don't know what Doctor Sleep is, it is like the poster says, it is the next chapter in the Shining series. Now, King doesn't always do sequels. He does like chapters of the same story. That's how I've always looked at it. Like when you see a direct
Yes.
sequel, they're not always great. So this is the continuation of Danny Torrance's kind of growth into adulthood, of him dealing with the shine post his father's breakdown at the hotel.
Yes.
So we now know that this was made in 20 the dramatic pauses. This is giving me like such dramatic pause. So this movie is 6 years after the book had come out, which the sequel book came out in 2013. And again, when I say you bless a movie with King being in it, it's 152 minutes. Budget $55 million. Again, you're looking at the actors that they brought on. You have Ewan McGregor and Rebecca Ferguson. Those are two big
Yes.
names. To a lot of people that don't know, Rebecca Ferguson was also in The Greatest Showman, and she can freaking sing. She's gorgeous and she can sing.
I will say this: beginning of the movie, she was giving me freaky Pennywise vibes.
Which we'll
Like
get into
right in the
towards the end.
beginning, we see her like there's a little girl who's walking like through the woods, and she sees her, and she's all being all magical, but she's got like this crazy kind of like just the way she's talking to her and the smiles. Like
Cat.
I'm feeling like Pennywise vibes. I'm like, this is creepy
She was
as
she
this
was very Cheshire Cat.
part of my language. She's creepy as shit.
Clear.
Okay. But I mean, like it was freaking me out because I didn't know anything about Doctor Sleep. I'm watching this like I'm brand new into this. I mean, obviously I watched The Shining plenty of times growing up, but outside of that, like she's got her own little cult, her own little like commune of hippie shiners, so to speak, with all different shines, and they're kind of like almost vampires feeding off other.
Well, let's go into the let's continue giving them some background story so they can understand why this movie was freaking awesome. So, the shine, we all know that the shine is typically some sort of psychic abilities, correct? We all know it's some sort of psychic power. But here's the thing. This movie opens us up to find out, and kind of in the Dark Tower also leads that the shine across the other parts of the multiverse, the all world, they're not all the same. And that these demons that are hunting these people down, like Pennywise, because Pennywise was killing those kids, and they always said, "Why is he terrorizing this group of kids?" Because one of those kids had the shine. He didn't know which one, but one of those kids did. In this series, it's the same thing. You're seeing something of a growth, and this also has a tie, which I loved that it tied back to the original movie, where he actually had a relationship with the cook from the hotel
Yes.
that he called because he was the one who looked out for Danny. Because
And I believe who was played originally by Scatman Carruthers.
I want to say yes, and I thought that was a huge nod as a diehard fan of this
Yeah.
stuff because when you see the fact that he makes the phone call and then he starts reaching out because he's the one, the cook, if you remember in The Shining, had the shine
Yes.
and he communicated to Danny. Danny then started learning how to hone his shine,
Kind of a Obi-Wan to Luke relationship, wink wink.
which I thought was hilarious when you watch this film because it was very, very tied to the Force. It was almost like,
Oh,
oh wow,
it's
look, it's him when he gets Anakin when he was a kid. Oh look, the little girl's snarky, just like Anakin, you know,
yeah.
and but
Yeah, if
again,
you guys have to watch it and you'll get it. What we're saying.
you'll see it. A
Oh,
hundred.
it's like cranking it up to 11, guys. I know I like to say that a lot, but
I
it's
agree
like,
with you.
I mean, the girl's very snarky. Yeah, she's got a little bit of a Anakin in there, and I mean, it's to me, it's like I love the scenes where it. I mean, obviously they recreated the scenes from
Several,
Shining,
several scenes.
but they killed just the sheer level that they did of recreating the scenes and the images and the characters. I mean, there's even a moment, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, but there's a moment where Danny does go back to the hotel.
Yes, that
And
does happen at one point in
by
the
the
movie.
way, Danny is an alcoholic and he's been sober for like 8 years. He Danny's gone down a dark road. His life was not a bed of roses, to say the least.
I mean, your dad died to a ghost hotel that was,
Yeah, and your mother dies when you're 20 years old. So yeah, he's got nothing but issues. But a certain series of events lead him back to the hotel, and he's walking through the hotel. He comes across the bar, and who's the bartender? The guy could be a double for Jack Nicholson. It's a
it was
different actor,
it was
but
perfect.
he looks a lot like Jack did during The Shining. And it's kind of like Danny kind of talking to his father, but not really talking to his father, but he is, but he isn't. It's just all kinds of just weirdness, but it's like just the sheer detail that they did. And if you watch the end credits, you will see that the Stanley Kubrick's family and other entities were involved heavily with the making of the movie. So I mean, it just blows you away. Uh, your boy
Thanks, Bob.
Cobb, not a
We
problem,
appreciate
Cobb.
you catch us on the replay, dude. You could always watch it on the replay. We do not take any offense to people having busy times.
Hey,
It is what it is.
it's 9 o'clock on 9 o'clock at night on East Coast. You know, people have families, they have things to do, maybe going to bed. It's working third shift, who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
It is
So
what it is.
now
Catch us on Spotify.
let's actually talk about this because I think Dave hit it in the nail on the head discussing this earlier. Rebecca Ferguson's character is the villain, She is one of a coven. I don't want to use the wording correctly because coven describes witches. Um, a conclave, a group of like-minded evildoers that are hunting people with the shine. Now, again, they themselves have shine, but they drain it from other people, much like a vampire would drain blood. Now, they're not vampires, but they are demons that have a human form. And I just,
because each one is killed when they're brought
exactly.
in.
Now, what's interesting is Rebecca Ferguson's character gave off vibes, if you had to compare it to like a Cheshire Cat Mad Hatter meets Pennywise. Like
So, I mean,
devilishly
she's rocking a hat,
evil.
so yeah.
You know, she was a carny that was just, I mean, she's beautiful, she's seductive, the accent, it's like all these things that are just perfect. And then like she's got like that sinister Pennywise smile and this
Oh yes.
desire for power. And then like they're infighting within the conclave itself of these villains are fighting amongst each other for power. So it's very interesting. And you like that's your group of villains, and then you have Danny Torrance kind of going on this soul searching Luke Skywalker style, like I gotta kind of get
Walkabouts,
to
yeah.
the walkabout. And then you have him training Kaylee's character, who is the snarky upstart young black girl who is itching to understand why she's gifted with the shine. Now, how does this tie into the multiverse? Well, we have now seen The Shining, the movie. We know about the shine. We know that there are characters intertwined in this that have heard of Pennywise. They've even been warned about demons and otherworldly beings hunting them, which are
Yep.
from all worlds. They've mentioned guardians that
Yes.
protect the people with the shine that have been charged with
And
this.
that there's different types of shine.
Exactly. That's how you've learned that there is more to the Keystone Earth. Also, again, this movie's a long one. This is not a short film
It's
by
just
any.
done. It's under 3 hours. It's like 2 hours
Yeah,
and
it's like
change.
2 hours 40 minutes, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's doesn't drag. I feel like it gives you, for the people that don't know the story of The Shining, it gives you a perfect primer to say, I don't really want to go back and rewatch that film, but it gives you like the perfect 20 minutes. This is it. This is the story. And again, Ewan McGregor kills it as a Danny Torrance adult.
A very distraught, broken down Danny Torrance, which, I mean, as someone who's a Star Wars fan and who's watched Kenobi on Disney Plus series, I mean, this definitely, I think he definitely draws from this portrayal because, yeah, he's this powerful person, but he's also broken and he's trying to find a place in the world. And he's just, it's just so much. Like, he has so much power, but also he's so broken and he doesn't know what to do or where to go in life.
And that's kind of the King's one of his
Mantra.
things with his heroes. His heroes all have like, I mean, and I think any writer, and I know it's something he mentions in his book. Your heroes are supposed to be flawed. You know, heroes are supposed to be to the point. They're flawed to the point that they can't be perfect. Not everyone's a Superman or a Captain. They can't be Captain America. They can't be Superman. A
Spider
hero's
Man.
like
Yep.
Spider Man, that they make mistakes, but they can learn from their mistakes. And Danny Torrance feels like that, and that's why I love this whole thing. It's like you're getting this flawed hero that's dealing with his past. That's why I like what Dave said. The perfect word's walkabout. You know, like he has to go to the source of what his trauma was to deal with that to help Kylie's character.
Now,
And that's one thing I love. And I think they even made a comment about reaching out to one of the kids from it, because it was also released. It Chapter 2 was released that year.
yeah. Now, I want to throw something out here. Now, forget the character's name. Maybe it was Chris or something. The gentleman who kind of like he meets Danny, he helps him find a room to rent. Helps
Oh, I
him,
know what you're
kind of
talking.
helps him with like finding a job and whatnot. But you know, even Dan, and by the way, Danny goes by Dan now, of course.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Why are you helping me?" And the guy says, "Well, I just feel like you need some help. You know, I just sense that you're a good person and you're just looking for direction." Now, to me, that's screaming that he had maybe an unrealized form of shine. That, you know, if anyone out there, if you ever had a thought like, you know, like you have a gut feeling and you trust your gut feeling about things, that's a form of shine. And maybe that could be where Stephen King came up with it once upon a time. You know, some of us are really great at you know, fixing things without really knowing much, or maybe we're good at finding things or good at certain things. Those are all forms of shine, and maybe he expanded that and used that. You know, your imagination is pretty powerful. You just never know. But I mean, to me, that kept to me shouting that he had a form of shine. Now going back to Dark Tower, there's a character, a homeless person, who's trying to warn Jake that, you know, they'll come and find you. Well, this person had a shine, but then they lost their shine as they got older because maybe they're afraid of it or they just didn't use it. And it's just like if you learn a skill, but you don't use that skill for years upon years, you eventually will lose it.
and there was also mention that there's ways to suppress your shine to hide it
Yes.
because that was what this conclave was doing. This group of villains were looking for people that were exercising their
Yeah.
shine, and Danny was suppressing it.
And of course, in Dark Tower, that's how they were tracking Jake. Was every time he used his shine, they could track him using it.
That's
So
another tie into this multiverse. Now,
definitely,
why do we?
that they have the same rules in each movie. I mean, if you have the same rules, then obviously it's a shared universe.
And that's kind of why I love that. That's why when I look at this, there's definitely a correlation. Now, I'm going to bring it back a little bit for you guys. I'm going to pull the curtain back. 78% positive. Now, compared to the Dark Tower, obviously a longer film, a chance to have more exposition, a
Yes.
chance to be part of the shared universe with
More
it.
background, more depth, more substance, as I said before.
It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 were background films to this one, tying into that multiverse. Again, and I'm not the only one that does this. Like and Dave and I both will tell you this. You know, like I looked this up online and I deep dove into this. And even if you just take a like 10 minutes out of your day to really look at this, you'd be surprised at how many people have actually really gone further back into unpublished works of King to really tie this all together with these films. So
Now,
it goes.
I just had a there he is again. Uh, just as Dre was dropping off, I was having a thought here as we were talking about the shine and about the expanding universe. Um, this is might be a little off subject, but maybe not so much. What if the mechanic who built Christine, when they passed, their shine passed into the vehicle, which would explain how the vehicle was so unstoppable. I'm
Well,
just,
that was also how Cujo's one of the demons.
yeah,
That's like one of the embodiments of one of the demons from the All World. There's there was, oh god, I can't remember what was it. Obviously, it was Pennywise is obviously tied to that as well because he's one of the characters, one of the aliens from, they say space, but the Native Americans never said outer space because it
could be
wasn't a
inner
meteor.
space, other dimensions, other realms.
They think it's another dimension because they were smoking peyote. That's how you understood the correlation. Um, and they said that he could not die, that he was like eternal. So I think if you look at it from the perspective that he's tied to one of those all powerful gods that's like tied to the dark side of things, that this is the, you know, there's light to the darkness. This is the darkness. What's the light? The snapping turtle, which I have yet to really deep dive and find anything about the snapping turtle being tied to anything across this, because technically the snapping turtle is the good one, or tied to the light side. And I've never seen a single reference in any of King's movies. But again, I may have to rewatch a lot of them to kind of pick that up. And that might be something else we do in the future, you know? But again,
And
this was
I'm
also
gonna say
not.
this won't
But
be our only episode on Stephen King. We're gonna be doing a lot more in the future.
oh no, there's definitely this is the tip of the iceberg. The fact that Kubrick directed, and I mean Kubrick, you know, I mean the guy's amazing. I mean,
No,
you can't
no matter
spit
what
in
you can
the
say about the person or their life outside of their career, I mean, his movies speak volumes. I mean,
Clockwork
it's
Orange,
yeah,
2001 Space Odyssey. Yeah, I mean,
masterpieces. I mean, if you want a master class in directing, I mean, that's definitely one of the names you have to bring up.
and they're pop culture films. Like
Yeah.
people, people's careers were made off of those movies, and people have modeled movies after those to
Yes.
imitate things that they saw in those, which are considered in film classes to be modern masterpieces. And I agree 100%. You put that in the same realm as Kurosawa's Seven Samurai and
Yeah.
Yojimbo. You put that in the realm of a Godzilla film.
We got a few more people to say hi very quickly. We got Blue Sasquatch. Freya, chosen one. Hey Freya, hope everything's going good with you, Berserker and Banana Bread.
Hey Freya,
Your little one. I hope he's doing well.
and hey Blue Sasquatch. I saw
Berserker.
you in there, my other fellow Canuck.
Yes, it was good. Definitely.
It's one of those movies that a lot of people don't talk about, and I like that. Here's something Dave and I've said, and I know I'm gonna shout out our boy Hey Archer, because Steven Hey Archer is amazing. Uh, hey, happy
Happy
birthday!
birthday.
Feliz cumpleaños o merito tanjobi. So you got it in 3 different languages, my dude. Happy birthday! I wish you nothing but the best.
He's
Uh,
brushing his beard right now. Oh, oh, okay.
I'm gonna address something Hey Archer said.
Is that on
Uh,
Only Beards?
only beer. It's hilarious. Um, right now, because of what's currently going on in Hollywood, a lot of people want to always talk about like Oppenheimer and Barbie.
I'm
We're
sorry.
not that channel. We're
We
not that channel, and I'm not
we
sorry.
don't we don't use the B word on this channel.
You know, but I'm not. We're not that channel. We don't want to sit. There's so much that people crave to know. You can go. I can recommend Hey, you can go. You can go to Hey Archer. You can go to Nerd
Yep.
Affiliate.
Nerd Affiliated is a great channel for all your latest, greatest views on new and upcoming films. But our channel, we're basically retrospective. We like to compare some movies. We like to do some pretty odd choices at times. We're just a fun channel. We're two 40 almost 45. We're
I
two
am
45-year olds. We're kids of the 80s who saw a bunch of amazing films, and we're just kind of discussing them and also mentioning some connections. Like, I mean, Doctor Sleep connects. Doctor Sleep and Dark Tower. They all connect with Stephen King's expanding universe. You're thinking like, you get one author. He's just not going to write, 30 or more books and not have some kind of commonality between them. He did. They're all shared universe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dark Tower is what bridges it. And while we were talking tonight, I just sent Dre a link. Apparently, because I was saying my wish is for Dark Tower to be a series.
He just sent it to me.
Apparently, it's in the works. It's not fully greenlit yet, but
Oh,
apparently, it's looks like it could happen. So fingers crossed.
hey, We'll definitely keep you guys apprised of what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing some wall wishing, and then I was checking my news feed, and I was like, oh my. Um,
So, so yeah, like when we
so
like, Hey Archer also has a challenge going out. If you guys don't know, he's put it out to other YouTubers that talk about the older stuff, because there are so many bigger YouTubers than us that are doing all the same things, and people like full of it, like they don't need to hear about it so much. So that's why I'd rather look at these films that are like that literally slip through the cracks.
yeah,
Doctor Sleep was one of those films I remember seeing an advertisement for. I was dating my wife at the time, and I remember asking her like, "Hey, are you interested to go see this movie?" Nah, we didn't see it. Dark Tower, I went to the theaters to go see because I like Idris Elba. But again, I am a movie buff. So is Dave. We have more of an intricate eye and look. We're very introspective. We'll look at things a lot closer when we see it interest us. So that's why we talk about these movies in a greater scope, in the grander scheme, so you guys can, if you were interested in watching it, or if you've wanted to watch it, or give it another watch, because this is a lot of popular people. Brian Tellerico, or Tellerico, he's very controversial figure all over social media and YouTube. But he was like, you know, this was a great film. Signed off by Kubrick's family, signed off by
Yep.
freaking King's family. King had roles in it. There's such a plethora of good in this.
Yeah.
And you see the vast differences in success versus Idris Elba and McConaughey, who did a fantastic job in their film. But
And
because it wasn't signed off on,
signed off on a lot of the writing. I mean, I still stand and I say that it feels like that movie was cut down, was edited the hell out.
and again, I would love to
That's
see the
just my
original
personal.
script.
That's my personal vibe. You know.
Hey, guess what? To anybody that listens to this that has any friends in Hollywood that can get us a copy of this script, we will gladly love to
Like,
read it,
if
because
anyone comes across it on Reddit or somewhere, send us an
send the
email.
link, email it to us, because I would love to see the
The
original
Outer
script.
Dimensions Podcast at gmail.com, or message us on Instagram at the Outer Dimensions Podcast, or on Twitter, Dre.
Yeah, at the Outer Dim Pod,
There you go.
because I would love to actually see this, because I've only, and this is, Dave's going to be probably a little mad at me for saying this and jealous a little bit. I was blessed many, 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 many moons ago to see the unfilmed script for AVP based on the video game and the graphic novels. I was at New York City Comic Con. There was a gentleman that he was selling. I see it. If for those of you that are not watching and listening, Dave
I'm
is
flipping
giving
Dre
me.
off right
Yeah,
now.
he's flipping me up.
Push
He's
my
telling me that
glasses
I'm
up
number
with my
one.
middle finger.
But that was the big thing. I got to read the script, and the opening for it was just like the video game. You look at the colony. It's daylight. People are walking around. Night falls. Black screen. Night falls again. Today, no one is alive, and you see a predator show up. That was cool. I would love to see something to see how deep this would have been, and how what more could have been done or could be done. I don't know if I'd want to see another sequel to this movie. I think it was very well done, to the point that I don't want to see like a story with Danny Torrance and Kylie's character. What I would like to see, and it sounds like, I know it's they were trying to do this with you. I know they were trying to do this with Universal Monsters. I would love to see what Daniel Legacy of Nerd said. I would love to see key villains show up in a film like the Big Bad, and they have to go to the tower and meet. And you would have Idris Elba, the gunslinger, Danny Torrance, Kylie's character,
Well,
Jake's
I
character.
mean, hypothetically, because Walter was taken out, there's going to be a power vacuum. Who's going to be the big bad of that shared universe? And that's where you could get Pennywise. You could have other entities or other baddies, spiritually speaking. You could have, an amalgamation of all the ghosts from the hotel. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can still happen.
Hell, Bronson Pinchot could come back as the Langolier.
I mean, hey, anything and everything could be on there. And if they do a Dark Tower series like we were reading, we could get a more expanded universe. We might get other baddies, and I really do hope that Stephen King has a hand in it.
I think he would. I think
So a
he's
supervisory
proven.
or some kind of advising role, kind of like how like some people in Star Wars still look and reach out to George.
Well, he's kind of signed off on all, and I think that's something that if you guys would be interested in us doing this, I've kind of been dabbling a little bit in like the Lucas. I don't want to call it the multiverse of Lucas because there's really no multiverse, but I would love to. I've done it as a brief deep dive into like the fans of Lucas and what they've done with the expanded Star Wars universe. Like I would love to take what he started and to see it again. What's this? So Blue says that they're
Yeah,
filming the TV
there's a
series.
Welcome to Derry show that is supposed to be like a prequel kind of a deal.
Yeah, that's the Duff brothers. The Duffer
Yeah,
brothers are doing that
on
one.
HBO or Max or however you want to call
Yep.
it. It's not
And
going to be for Netflix though. I believe it's for Max itself.
it's a Max show, and I know the Duffer brothers are the ones that signed on to do it, and it's
Yeah.
going to be freaking awesome.
I mean, it would be great if it was Netflix, but we're not so lucky. We're going to have to spend more money on another streaming service,
So
potentially
that I've
speaking.
heard of, and I'm excited to see that. Um, and now with the strike, who knows when we'll get to see the final product? But um,
2026, maybe. Who
I'm
knows?
honestly with, and that kind of brings it back to what I was saying about what Hey Archer said. Like we'll bring it full circle. There is a potential if this ends in the next 2 months, things will get back rolling, and we may just have it later next year. But I'm kind of on the fence where I think we won't really see these TV series kind of collate.
Because by the time you get the scripts written and the actors and the cast and production thrown together, scouting locations and doing the actual filming and then the editing, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a long process, easily a year and a half to 2 years before you get your first season, potentially speaking.
Hell, Stranger Things. How many years did they take to
Yeah.
Stranger?
Well, the next season, of Stranger Things, is what? Not until 2025?
Originally, it was supposed to be 2024,
Yes, but I heard it got pushed back.
then it got pushed back, and then the strike. So assume that we are. No, Dairy's going to be for Max. The Duffer Brothers said that they didn't get Netflix didn't sign off on it. That's what I heard. That Netflix didn't sign off on the Duffers
I
doing
mean,
that project.
but who knows? Blue, as far as Netflix goes, we don't know what kind of shape Max is going to be within the next year or two.
Especially being
Because,
it's a Warner Brothers property.
well, Warner Brothers has sold off a lot of music rights and show rights to other entities out there. So who knows? It could be possible that by the time everything is said and done and is ready to launch, they might just push it onto Netflix. Netflix might say, "Hey, we already have Stranger Things."
But hey, wait, I'm stupid. We didn't realize that the Duffer Brothers doing the project, right?
Yeah,
It is Warner Brothers. So the King stuff is all Warner Brothers. So it would make sense that they're gonna make it for Max because Max is basically Warner Brothers Discovery.
but you never know. Discovery's been selling off a lot of stuff, so we just never know.
Yeah, but they're also keeping the AEW television rights because AEW, as I was just saying, AEW's pay per view for All in Wembley Stadium coming up in a couple of weeks is actually going to air on Max as part of the Max budget. So, like, if you have Max as a streaming service, Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns parts of AEW, TNT, and TBS, I don't see them dropping a huge property like it to Netflix. I don't see that happening. But that's just me. Again, I could be very wrong.
Yeah, Papa Gord, popping his eyes in. Hey, Papa, hope you're having a great night.
So again, how do we look at more multiverse stuff? Well, obviously this deep dive led us down a path of what's currently come out. We've talked about it, chapter 1 and 2, in its own with remakes, and then we're talking about it here and its correlation to, ironically enough, that 2017, It Chapter 1. 2019, It Chapter 2. And both these movies of Kings released the same year. Um, what's next? Do we see King's next big project? He hasn't really talked about it. I know that he's had an idea to do some of his son's projects from the Black Label DC, like Plunge, Basket Full of Heads, Refrigerator Full of Heads. I would love, love, love to see those done as live action. But again, like Dave said, with everything currently going on in Hollywood, we can only speculate. We can't really ever say because things are getting delayed left and freaking right. So,
Okay, I'm just taking a quick look here. It looks like there's a Stephen King movie that was supposed to come out called The Boogeyman. Did that come out?
The Boogeyman, that did come out, and that
Okay,
was
June looks like.
it did not do let me actually see if it's on my uh special website that I go to.
I believe there is a remake or possible sequel to Children of the Corn. I see.
There's a not a remake, it is a oh god, what's it called?
Soft reboot.
It's like a reboot kind of retelling. The Boogeyman. Wow, this came out in 1980. The original. What was it? Wasn't it 2022? No, it's 2023. All right, let's see. Wow, this movie did terrible to the aggregators. It's currently on Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime. Probably different countries. So if you're looking
Okay,
for it,
so what I'm looking at here is they mentioned Boogeyman. Take a look at a few other things. Pet Cemetery prequel.
that's been in the works for a minute. Interesting, interesting. All right, I need to find this movie to watch. I didn't even realize this how bad this movie was. To me, I remember seeing it advertised. It's only an hour and 38 minutes. So and King's not in the movie. Just to give you guys a little bit of a tidbit, he's not even in the movie. See, Children of the Corn was good. I think it suffered sequelitis because of the 80s and 90s when they were like, "Oh, this is a good property. Let's keep making like freaking 900 of this movie." So, because that was a good idea, said no one. Um, I do think that, and if you guys are interested in us talking more horror, if you guys are interested in us talking more about horror, which is one of the main three big things we talk about on this channel, um, James Wan, who is wildly famous for the Conjuring universe and all the movies that have come out under that, if you guys are interested in us doing a universe multiverse idea, because there is a joke that James Wan has linked those movies together, as well as linked his stuff in across all his films. So like you'll see Annabelle's doll in one of his movies. There's even talk about it in Fast X. Yes, I just said Fast X. There is talk about the
Listen,
Conjuring.
if you want to talk about Annabelle and family, I actually have a niece named Annabelle,
That's even creepier, but it's not in a bad way for the little girl. But that's what I'm saying.
and she is an unstoppable force, believe it or not.
An unstoppable force. So I don't know what if you guys are interested in us doing anything. We do have another multiverse. We're kind of keeping it in the realm of multiverse because I know next week we're going to be doing the beta 2.0, or really is
The
this 3.0?
the MCU the MCU Multiverse Beta Part 2. Is
Part
that
two.
Part 2? Um, basically, we did a episode a few weeks back, maybe a month ago, where we did Marvel movies before there was a cinematic multiverse, so to speak. Before there was a cinematic universe, like the earliest Marvel movies, we did the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. We
Mm-hmm.
did the 1990 Captain America, which almost nobody ever saw, and and we also did what was the other one? I'm blanking on the other one. Oh, we did Nick Fury, Agent of Shield, starring David Hasselhoff
I'll
from
be right back.
1998 TV movie. So we covered those. Now we're going to be doing some other ones. Let me actually pull them up. We're going to be covering, I believe, I want to say Blade was among the list. I'm going to pull that up right now so we can see it. Bear with me just a moment, guys. Okay, where's our plots? Here we go. So our MCU beta is going to be Blade, Punisher Warzone, which is the second Punisher movie that came out recently within the 2000s. First one with Thomas Jane, of course. This one with with Ray Stevens, the late Ray Stevens, and we're also covering Daredevil and Elektra. Yes, that is the Ben Affleck Daredevil with Jennifer Garner's Elektra. So that is going to be our MCU beta part 2, and we're going to be covering that one next week. But me and Dre, we were talking about how this has some Star Wars kind of elements, like Obi-Wan teaching Luke, and this Dr. Sleep was very true to it because, well, Danny Torrance, for those who haven't seen, a little bit of a spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen it, but you plan on watching it, you may want to turn this off until you do. So we're going to give you a little spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. Spoiler. He actually sacrifices himself. Very much kind of like what Obi-Wan did. Kind of ironic that Ewan McGregor is Dan Torrance. And then he kind of is still guiding the young girl, even at the end of the movie, as kind of like a force ghost, if you will, kind of still guiding her. So it definitely has shades of Star Wars throughout this. Whether it was on purpose or not, it's kind of ironic that it's Ewan McGregor. That's all I'm saying. What do you think of that, Dre?
I absolutely loved it. When you think of the concept of Ewan McGregor kind of being that Obi-Wan force behind the character, I loved it. But
I
that's
mean,
just
especially when he's broken, and it's looking at the Disney Plus series of Obi-Wan, I'm like, it just kind of rings all the way through. Because yet again, a young girl it comes his way seeking some assistance, and he has to step up to kind of be the guiding force for her, no pun intended. And it brings him, and through that process, he's kind of facing his demons, no pun intended, of his life and what has happened to his life and what's caused him to kind of shy away from the shining and everything else. It kind of pulls him back into that calling that he knew he had to take on to begin with. At least that's what I took away from it.
so. Here's another thing I want to bring up for you guys that when you guys are asking us again, like because Dave and I fielded several suggestions, and we love it. I absolutely do. One of the reasons we love doing this channel. If you guys want to see more of us link the multiverse theory, one, I absolutely love. I'm a conspiracy theorist to my core. As a historian, it's what I love doing.
You guys have no idea.
I know Dave didn't realize that.
And by the way, speaking of no ideas, we have a lot of people who are tuning into our channel for the first time ever because we are simulcasting this on our own individual YouTube channels. Please consider going to the Outer Dimensions podcast on YouTube and please subscribe to us so you can get the latest and greatest that's going on with our stream. And also, don't forget to check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from, guys, because we're on multiple formats right now. So if you guys don't get the chance to watch us, well, you can just listen to us on your cell phone or your car radio or whenever or wherever, guys. So please don't forget to look up the Outer Dimensions podcast on YouTube, the Outer Dimensions podcast on Instagram, and the Outer Dim Pod on Twitter.
Yes.
And like I said, we're on Spotify and other podcast formats. So, guys, please check
So
us out and follow us.
I would like to say that we will do something. Dave and
I hope
Dave.
we'll
I
do
haven't told Dave this, but because I just hit a milestone on my personal channel. Thanks, big shout out to Yukon Phil and Rebels, Reptiles, and Games
Yeah,
for
he took his training wheels off his bike now.
yeah, because we finally got over 100 on the
Yep.
collective safe space, and that was one of the goals I wanted to have before the year was out to get to 100, and we did it, and I was so proud. So that the next milestone will be that this channel has to get 100. And
Yes.
I will state this, we will do, and this is the dreaded thing I hate doing. When we get to 100, we will actually do a subscriber appreciation giveaway. Meaning the people that have been on here week in and week out, that watch the content, listen to it on our, and this will go out across all social media platforms, that we will do a movie. As in, Dave and I will probably find a movie, and we will curate one of the films into a Blu-ray with, and we'll be fair because I know a lot of people don't have Blu-ray players, so it'll be like a Blu-ray DVD combo, and we will purchase it brand new,
Yes.
and we will ship it continental U.S. I know Canada, we have to talk. Might be digital. If you get it in Canada, it might be a digital copy. We send you an iTunes card, you know. But the idea will be that we want to give back to our subscribers, give back to the supporters, because I don't want to call you subscribers. I want to call you guys supporters of the channel, because without you, we wouldn't have a reason to do this, except for the mere shits and giggles that we get to do it. So I'm not doing anything on my personal channel till I hit 200. Then I will do a giveaway on that on my personal channel. But for now, I want to focus on us hitting. We are at 29 subscribers, so there's 29 of you guys supporting us, following us
Yes.
through the portals every week, and we love you for it. How about if you're following us on Kick right now, watching on Kick, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on either one of the YouTube channels, come through. Just watch one of the videos. Listen to us on Spotify. Sign up, get us to 100, and we will figure out, maybe it might be two movies if the price is good. We will figure out something, and it'll be a nice, like, good surprise. It
And
won't
who
be a
knows? There
crappy
might be
film.
an extra surprise in there for you. You just
Exactly.
never know.
So we'll figure it out. We might do. I've been wanting to do some stickers and merch for the channel. Dave and I have been doing a lot. Like, I think Dave and I have taken our personal baby here, and it's become more of our. I know, it's like I say that, and it's like, I get kicked out. I think that for us to have individual channels, they don't take the back seat, but they definitely ride shotgun to this channel. This channel is like our pet project, but we have so much fun doing it that I want to give back. So if you guys can see, that's 100 supporters is not that far off from
No.
29. So
71.
it's 71 people, which we can make that happen. Get us to 100, and we will do a special episode live like this, dedicated to you guys.
Dre will shave his beard and his eyebrows.
Oh, I will not shave my eyebrows. Hell
He's
no.
going completely dolphin smooth for you guys. Come
I
on.
will shave my mustache, not my goat. My goat will always stay. But yeah, I wanted to just say thank you guys to that. I know that this is where I put a lot more focus on the content, because I feel like this is a lot more of a fun passion project for me and Dave. And if you guys want to see other stuff, like we have been suggested on Twitter, and I'm going to mention this to Dave here live. We have been suggested to do TV shows, like TV movies, things that never really made it off of television. Like, what would we talk about? Like when we mentioned the Hulk, like, oh, can we talk about those films? Dave and I've talked about it. We've never really. Does Manscaped count? That's the After Dark podcast.
But hey, if they wish to sponsor the Outer Dimension podcast,
If, yeah, Manscaped
we're
wants to
open
sponsor us,
to
we have no problem.
we're
I will
open to
gladly use their
sponsorship
product.
and debates about that.
So there is, like I said, there has been some talk um, for us to do other things. People have asked us to do TV shows like that have been finished, like sci-fi action shows. Like those things are fun, but we only do this once a week,
Yes.
and we will take those suggestions. So if you guys are really, and I'm going to be very blunt, if you are 100%, like if we got like 50 people to say, I want to see you guys talk about for all 4 seasons of Knight Rider,
Well, I will throw
we'll
this
do it.
out there as a potential suggestion that would still keep it within our original format. Now, if somebody said, "Hey, could you do or like a movie that wasn't successful adaptation from movie to TV or vice versa?" Like Time Cop was a very fun, great action romp, but as far as a TV series, it failed on ABC.
Or Baywatch. The
Or
TV show was wildly successful, but then the movie was terrible.
or even let's say I mean we could do comparisons with 21 Jump Streets, we could do
18.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. There's a lot of things that we can play around with. Movies that didn't translate over to TV. We wouldn't be covering the entire scope of that TV series, but we would be doing a comparison on how well the characters transitioned. Did they just go with new characters? you
And
know
Knight Rider the movie can count because there was a Knight Rider television movie, but I don't know if that would be something we would go too deep into because it was only like,
Knight Rider 2000 is the movie I believe you're referring to.
yes.
So Knight Rider 2000, I mean, we could discuss that. I mean, there's a lot of different things. There was actually several Knight Rider TV movies.
Yeah, there's like, but those are episodes that were combined into one,
No, there's three. We have Knight Rider 2000.
which I saw.
We have Knight Rider 2010, which actually has nothing to do with the original series, but it was a person's essence who was put into a car.
Yes, I remember.
And there was also the 2008, I think it was 2008, Knight Rider, which was actually it was a complete reboot, but it had a loose relationship with the original series, starring
Wait, are you,
Justin Brenner, and had the voice of Val Kilmer as the new Kit.
oh no, it wasn't a loose trend. It was a
Well,
direct
it kind of
sequel.
was. You had Hasselhoff appear at the end. There was no Devin Miles.
No,
There was a
Hasselhoff. Okay, so
loose.
Hasselhoff was in the first episode. The kid was
And
his
he was
son.
at the end of the TV movie. He made like a quick 2 or 3 minute appearance, and that was it.
Wait, in 2008, there was a TV series on NBC. It was a full
Yes,
season.
that's that. I have the entire season, but the movie itself is like that. Like you don't hear about Bonnie. You see parts of the original Knight Rider kit, and that's it. For the rest of the show itself, like when they actually did the series for one season, it was kind of like okay, they were working for the government solely. There was no actual flag until about 8 or 10 episodes into the season, but then it failed once they actually reformatted and did their own version of flag. Like it was a whole thing, and we can go to a conversation about that in the future at another point in
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah. That's
But
that's one that
but yeah,
is on the docket. But for those of you guys that are interested in like telling us like, hey, we want to see you talk, like these things. I'm gonna say it's fair. Anything's fair game as long as it wasn't this year. Like before the strike, anything that was this year, we're not talking about it. If it was tied to a film from years previous, and this is the like Mission Impossible. If we were to talk about the Mission Impossible franchise, we would talk about this year's film because it was this year's film. But we are trying to stick to older stuff, and we always have a theme. So if you guys are interested in us doing another thematic style, television style one, I'm not opposed to it. But honestly, again, there are channels out there, Dave and I've said this, that specifically do deep dives into television shows. And we don't do that. Like I know Dave has been bombarded by many fans to do that on his personal channel, to do a final kind of tell all episode for the
Quantum Leap season 1, the reboot that was recently, the reboot continuation.
Quantum
Yeah,
Leap.
on my channel, I mean, I've had a few people reach out to me about that. That may be something that I do at some point in time. It's just right now the channel itself, I've been trying to catch up because I kind of took a little bit of time off because I was focusing on fundraisers on my channel and other events that I won't go into. But yeah, it's, it's a lot of us, TV shows, we can look into that. But our original format is the Outer Dimensions podcast, talking about movies, because TV shows you talk about a deep dive. A TV show is a deep dive because you're committing yourself to maybe anywhere between 13 to 20 episodes per season. And let's say a show goes 4 or 5 seasons. That's a lot of episodes to kind of cover. You can miss a lot of stuff.
Or
And
you
then,
go into stuff like
it can get a little
Arrow.
repetitious too. We don't want it getting too dry. We want you guys to have a nice strong appetite. I mean, you can only have cheese and pepperoni pizza so many times. Maybe you want a little pepperoni. You want some sausage. You want some meatballs.
Or
Maybe
eventually you want
want
to
a
leave
nice
pizza and you want to get
three
spaghetti.
cheese steak pizza. With some bacon on it. You got to
So
change it up. A little bit of
exactly.
seasoning.
So we like to shoot for, and we will stay doing this.
I know I'm always talking food.
We should maybe do that. That's another channel we could always consider doing. But yeah, we basically want you guys to understand that we will do what we can, but we're not going to deviate from what we do, which is movies. So TV themed movies we can touch, but like if you want to do TV shows, I'll recommend you to like Hey Archer. I'll recommend you to Legacy of Nerd and
Yep.
the Countdown City Geeks. I could talk to any other like
Yeah, I
Marvel
mean,
action
we
figures.
can refer you to one or two channels that we highly recommend, and there are some networks or some group channels out there that we might suggest you to, or we might suggest you to our individual channels at times, because I know I've covered a lot of things TV centric in the past. But I mean, it all depends on, like, if you're looking for stuff on TV shows, we might refer you. But again, there's 20,000, if not more, maybe even a couple million people who cover TV shows and movies. You just have to type in the keyword search, and you're going to come across people who do rewatches of Star Trek, or people who are doing new reviews of TV shows. But I always tell people, one, keep in mind those are those individual people's opinions. If you're watching a show, you enjoy it, you know what I say? Break out your cell phone. Why don't you record it, upload it, start your own channel?
And hey, if you
Because
want us to come on,
you know what? Honestly, guys, our opinions are going to differ from yours. Plain and simple. Our opinions are going to differ from yours. Hey Archer, he actually happens to like the Flash movie, where if you went on my channel, you would have saw my reaction and review to that, and completely polar opposite. Just throwing that out there. So I mean, if you want us to do, if you wanted to a deep dive on a certain show, right now presently that's not going to be within our formats. However, if there is something you would like us to cover, like we said, we're open to reviewing maybe a movie and comparing it to the first episode or two of its show. I could see us potentially doing that, but that's going to be at a much later date and time because we have ourselves pretty much scheduled throughout the year.
yeah, I think we're up
We're
till
up to
Christmas.
December, if
I
I'm
think
correct.
I think we got up till Christmas, and then
Okay.
that was where I
Yeah.
think we stopped. So
Now respectfully, we're not a channel that only schedules, plans things out for the next 2 or 3 weeks. We have a structure, and we have everything planned out throughout the end of the year right now. We're only in August, and we have everything planned out up until December, relatively speaking. There might be 1 or 2 weeks where we take off, either family emergencies where one of us isn't feeling well, or with the holidays, because we've got a lot of holidays coming up. You got, I know, uh, October might be a little tight month for me. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
You
that
get
might be for me. I got kids,
yeah,
so.
you got Thanksgiving, you know.
But what we
So,
might do is Dave and I did talk about this, so you guys don't lose out. We may record something and place it up to be set up, so you guys won't really miss out.
do a live premiere, and we might, one of us might be remote and reacting to it on cell phone or mobile device, so we can still react with you guys and interact with you on those.
And
But
actually listen and actually react. Like you guys won't just have like a bot reaction. Like we'll actually
like,
be in the
thank you.
chat with you, like discussing it. So that is something. And when we do those types of shows, like I call them canned. Like when we do a canned show like that, we can do a little bit different content that's outside of what we usually do.
Sometimes canned ham can be pretty good,
Yeah, canned ham ain't bad. You spice it the right way. I'm
but
telling you,
yeah,
food might be
but
a thing.
but
Watch
trust
people
me,
don't
guys,
say that.
we are still, whether it's a live show or pre-recorded, we will still be posting on. What we usually do is we wait for 5 episodes and then we upload to Spotify and the other podcast formats. But we have a structured setup. We're not haphazard. There are a few channels out there that maybe kind of fly by the seat of their pants. We plan things out moving forward. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff coming through the pipeline. And if that's something you guys want us to do, we're definitely going to review it. We're not going to say, well, no, we don't do that thing. No, we're going to review it. We're going to see how we can approach it, because we don't just want to just throw it up willy nilly. We like to plan things out. Dre does the cheat sheets. He does all our research. We push out we try and promote it as much as we possibly can. And regardless, we're just two guys having natural hangout and natural discussion on these movies. We're not fake personalities. We're not talking like this.
Oh
We're
God,
not
I hate
trying
that.
not trying to act a certain way. This is our pure reactions. Unlike some, this can be a little bit of shade, respectfully, guys. This is just my personal opinion, Dave of Dave's Dimension. This is
Oh,
just my
this is also
personal
mine
opinion.
too. Dave knows
But
I throw in on this.
there are a lot of fake personalities out there in the YouTube verse. And honestly, I mean, we're all honest, like I was talking earlier. Hey, I would love it if they did a Dark Tower show, and then we find out there really is, because this is live. This is a pure reaction. This isn't anything pre-recorded or pre-rehearsed. We're live. We're on a seat. Dre keeps dropping out every 5 or 10 minutes because of a connection issue. But don't worry, we're going to get that sorted out. But this is live. We're not trying to do any fake setup. We're not. And also, we don't push for guests here. It's just me and Dre reacting to you guys in the chat. So that's how it is, guys.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, like there was one other suggestion I had, which was, would we do? And this was a friend of mine had reached out to me through my personal Facebook. He said, "Hey, would you guys do animated films? Like, would you guys do like a deep dive
Heavy metal.
into like?" He mentioned heavy metal.
I'm just saying.
He mentioned like Transformers,
GI Dre.
GI Drop. How about that? But no,
I
we
mean,
were.
like
He gave me a couple. He's like, I'd love to hear people like your take on
I mean,
like the Don Bluth stuff.
I can see us doing, like, as far as the animated, I would throw out heavy metal. Um, I'm gonna say Cool World, maybe.
Cool World is definitely Roger Rabbit. You gotta throw Roger Rabbit.
Yeah,
If you throw
I
Cool
mean,
World, you gotta throw
like
Roger
those
Rabbit.
would be three good ones right there. I mean, if we're doing like 80s nostalgia, we could do GI Joe, we could do Transformers, and we could do like the first few. There was like a technically a 2 hour version of the pilot for Thundercats.
There was, but
So
there's also like, see, I would also look at something like the He-Man Christmas special. You know, with She-Ra, He-Man and She-Ra do
yeah,
Christmas.
oh no, I know you're talking about the kids from Earth who come. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So,
watch that every Christmas. What are you talking about? It's on
so
YouTube.
I know it. That's even funnier. So there are. So when I so to my friend that he mentioned it to me. Jeremy, I appreciate you, love you for it. I hate that you put the bug in my ear for it because they got my brain thinking. That's why I mentioned it on the podcast with Dave
You
here.
don't want his brain thinking, trust me.
So if you guys want us to do an animated films, now there are not a lot of sci-fi, horror. I don't want to say action because action there's a lot that falls into the realm of action, but
I
there's
mean,
not a
yeah,
lot of sci-fi.
Titan AE is very sci-fi action.
Yeah, Titan AE, Treasure Planet, which is Disney,
Well, I
and
wasn't
you
going
got
to
to
go
be
in that
careful with the
direction.
mouse. Like whenever we do stuff with the mouse, folks, I'm not gonna lie, I cringe a little bit. As much as I love Disney, we have to be careful with copyright. And if I put even a picture up on the cheat sheet and I don't give them credit, they can strike our video for it. So
I mean,
I,
we can also put in our video description that the images we're using are, we do not have the exclusive rights to the image or the content held there inside. I mean, we can do disclaimers. So I
so we
mean, there
might
there
so
are approaches we can take.
and there are so if there is a genuine interest, which I like I said, I've had a few of my friends, personal friends, tell me they want me to do this, and I was like, I think they would be down for it 100%. Um, we there are a few. I'll compile a list.
He'll check it twice.
I'll check it twice, and the Lord knows that y'all had to make me put that bug in my ear because I really didn't want to do it. But then it was like, man, there's a lot of good animated films that have come out in the last 25 years, 40 years that are worth a good deep dive into. So we will do that. And CGI does count for more modern stuff because there are some films that didn't make it here. So I think that's pretty much going to be that on like kind of giving you guys some ideas of what we've here because I feel like a lot of people think that when we look at our social media we don't talk about it. I wanted you guys to hear about it. I do know that I am backlogged for my personal channel because this is the portion when we're wrapping things up. We kind of tell you guys what we're doing. Um, I am gearing up. My wife is gearing up to go back up to work, and my teen. I have one. I have a teenager boy. He's going to college, and then my teenage girl is going to eighth grade. So I am a little backlogged with content for my personal channel. So I will be doing a live on starting Mondays, where I'll be interviewing, so to speak, members of the Collector Safe Space. So there are a core group of guys and girls that are members of that. I'm gonna bring them on a Monday for an hour, and we're gonna talk. I've already got my first guest. Let me just double check the date here. Um, so my first guest will be on. Nobody signed up for Monday yet. I did reach out already for one. Monday the 14th, which is next week. But Monday the 21st at 7 p.m., Mr. John Joker will be my first member I'll be interviewing. And I'm not really interviewing. We're just going to sit, talk collection, talk about what he does. What a lot of people know him. He's been a good YouTuber and he's a very positive member of the community. And I would like to kind of have that chance to talk with him. So that's what we're doing.
And we just lost Dre.
You gotta love it because they just leave me in the bottom. Don't make me the big one, because it'll boot me out. But yeah, that's kind of the talk. So if you guys are interested, members, and this also goes out to you guys here that are on here. If you guys are really want to talk, like come on for an hour, we'll talk. So maybe I should get Dave to come on the first episode. What do you guys think about that? Should Dave be on Monday next week?
Well, Dave might have other stuff going on, so
See, that's true. He may, but I like to peer pressure people because I do that all the time. So
this isn't Screen Part One. Pure pressure. No, that's not happening.
so yeah.
But what do you have going on right now,
Uh,
other than the Collector Safe Space
all right. As of
interview?
right now, they're my friends that I met. We were supposed to have an interview that me and Dave were supposed to conduct. They're going to PowerCon in Ohio this weekend, so they will not be available. So I have a couple interviews scheduled for late September, early October. For the safe space. We Dave and I are in the process, and I've got a date narrowed down, which I think it was September the 8th, a Friday. It'll be in the evening for the mental health panel. I've had several people inside of the community as well as outside of the community in other collecting communities reach out to me, and they would love to do something. So September the 8th, I have Dave, myself, I think it was Colin from EC Collecting, and a few other people are looking to
Now,
sign up
I
to
want to
do.
just give anyone who's listening or watching this a little bit of background. What we mean by mental health is this day and age, there's stress everywhere, whether it's at home, at work, even on YouTube here. Um, us as content creators, we do have stress about, making numbers or trying to find content to make fresh content. And, honestly, we are competing with, a couple other million people also on YouTube. So there's stresses that affect everyone. We know that um, couple about a year or so ago, a bunch of us came together for men's mental health awareness, which is something that is not usually acknowledged, but this is mental health itself. We find stresses whether you're going to the grocery store, you get some idiot cutting you off in traffic, or maybe you're just feeling the pressures of trying to manage just having life, having work, and supporting for your family at the same time. um, Mental health can manifest in many different forms, and this is about a group of people coming together talking about maybe some of their life experiences that have brought them down or that have shook them in certain ways, or maybe they feel like there's some days where they just feel like they can't even go out into the world. That's what this is about. This is about sharing your thoughts, hearing other people's thoughts on it, what got them through it. It's just about emotional and mental support out there for one another, whether you're a guy, a gal, whether you identify as a they, whatever walk of life that you're currently finding yourself in, or maybe you're transitioning in some aspect of life. If you just need someone to talk to, that's what this is all about. And the Collector Safe Space, Dre's channel, that's he rebranded his channel specifically that because we have a small group that we help manage, which is called the Collector Safe Space because there should be a safe space for everyone and anyone out there. There's also a Discord that you can join us on if you want to be a part of that conversation. You just need someone to like, hey, I'm having a bad day. That's what we're here for, guys. We're not an official organization of any kind. We're just a group of like-minded people who believe in positivity and not the negativity of it all. We're just trying to support one another. So, in case you guys are like wondering, mental health, well, what are you going to be talking about? We're not, if someone is feeling down, if we have some information, we have a website or a phone number that you can reach out to. If you're feeling, you're feeling a certain way, if we have the information to share, that's what we're going to do. But mostly it's about talking to people because a lot of us grew up with strong was maybe certain, I shouldn't say strong, but certain role models who were all about hiding the stress, hiding the frustrations. You do that, it's going to boil, it's going to explode, and you could self-destruct, you can cause hurt to a lot of different people. And this is basically, this initiative is about preventing that. Sometimes just
We come up,
blowing off some steam makes a world of difference, guys.
and this will be a monthly thing. So this is not going to be just a one-off uh, event. This will be a monthly event as we get closer to the holidays. Uh, and I'm not going to shout Dave out in a negative way. He's my brother, literally as close to me as a brother. Love him to death. He and I met because of this. And what really struck out to me was Dave was like, "Man, I feel like the holidays are the worst because I don't even really have that many people that reach out to me." And I sent him a Christmas card, and now
Yep.
we freaking talk every day. So if that's not proof that
He's
this
dogs me.
community comes
I'm kidding.
together and that you get a brother out of this, or a
Mhm.
sister out of this, that's what we're doing. So this will be on the Collector Safe Space channel, which is not my it's my personal channel, but it's really more for the group. And like Dave said, we're not an official group, but I am pushing for 2024 to be the year that we can become something bigger than what originally had started. And that's a lawfully aspiration, but it's an aspiration that I'm striving for. I'm tired of the bullshit in the communities. I'm tired of the passive aggressiveness and back talk. You know, there's enough positivity out there, and we need to keep it going. And that's what we're doing.
Exactly.
And like I'm done with the bullshit. I'm done with the I'm gonna be here to be here, and I'm here, but I don't want to be here. Forget it. You want to be here? Great. See what we're doing. You don't want to be here? Don't be here. Not just on this channel, but on any channel that we are a part of. So that was my spiel. That's my thing. But as far as what I'm going to be doing moving forward, that mental health thing will be on September 8th. I'm trying to shoot for an 8 p.m. start time till about 9 ish. It's a Friday night. I know a lot of people don't like that, but barring that I don't have anything, that's the date to start. Um, I do have, like I said, John Joker coming out on the 21st, and that will be the Collector Safe Space, and that'll be called the Member Spotlight. And that'll be from 7 till about 8 o'clock. And that's kind of I will try to get back in the flow of the daily afternoon. I know I kind of got away from that, and I apologize, but it's been the summer, and my wife, before she went back to work, we wanted to spend time with the kids. So that's not. I'm sorry, not sorry. You know. So we had birthdays, we had trips, and things that were kind of springed in the middle. So expect those to come back at like 2 in the afternoon, 2:30 till about 3:30. So that will be coming back. So I'm looking forward to doing those. And Dave, I know, has been doing some killer content on his channel. Folks, you need, and I'm not saying this because he's my brother, I'm saying it because it's freaking awesome. You need to watch his rant videos. They are his. If Dave does not do this, folks, we
There,
need to get
there,
him to do it. They're great.
there may be more rant videos coming through the pipeline. We and
Get him to do more.
I initially did the rant video, Flash DC's shit show. It was all just pure reflex, my reaction to seeing the movie The Flash and my thoughts therein. I've done a few other, like I actually did a video talking about scammers on Twitter now. People who do fake giveaways because they want you to click a link because they think you're being registered, but you're not. You're being routed to a person's YouTube channel. It's a way to kind of trick people into being routed to their channel so they get views. So, well, Dave's Dimension has been kind of doing some off-brand stuff like that, and who knows, maybe it'll become brand.
It needs to become branded. It's hilarious.
And by the way, I just recently unboxed the Secret of the Ooze Ninja Turtle 2-packs. Mikey and Donatello will premiere tomorrow. I already have Leo and Raph unboxed. I also have the Shredder Ultimate in addition to Super Shredder. You can find that on Dave's Dimension. And I have all these G.I. Joes still to unbox.
Not to mention more that I'm getting
with more coming.
Yes, 5 more from me. 5.
And if you guys are a DC McFarlane collector, yeah, we got the Vampire Superman coming through the pipeline. So be sure to check us out for that. But we got a lot coming through the pipeline. Dre, do you have any final words?
Amadeus Cho Hulk is freaking awesome. My
Give him a hand.
Gilster, that was just wrong. Oh, dude, his thing was by far, that rant video was by far one of my favorite things. So I got up and clapped from my chair. That's how proud of Dave I was for that. But my final words will be: stop letting haters dictate to you how to live your happiness. Do you stay doing what you're doing to make you happy, and don't let anyone take your shine, because giving that power away ruins who you are. And that's where I'm gonna leave that, because Dave, that was Dave's advice to me, And since then, it rekindled my fire to do everything I'm doing. So,
Okay. And that's what the collector safe space is all about, guys. So please check out anyone who's in here watching this or listening to this. Please check out the collector safe space on YouTube. That is Dre's channel. Of course, there's Dave's Dimension. Look me up on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram as well. We are all over the place. Those are our independent channels. But of course, this has been the Outer Dimensions podcast. Next week, the MCU Beta Part 2,
part 2.
which is
Let's give,
Blade.
let's
Blade
give them
Part
the
1.
films. Yeah, Blade Part 1.
Okay. Punisher Warzone with the late great Ray Stevenson. And we had to do the power couple that's not a power couple, not for a long time. Ben Affleck is Daredevil, and of course Jennifer Garner, Elektra. We're doing both movies. Both movies have amazing actors in it, and for the time they were really good. I mean, it's like if comparing this Tobey Maguire Spider-Man to Tom Holland Spider-Man. The movies and the stories have their pluses and minuses. They have great people in it, but it all depends on how it's put together. And that's the same thing with, I mean, you can compare, Ben Affleck's Daredevil to what you call it, Charlie Cox in Netflix. I mean, a lot of people say Charlie Cox definitive Matt Murdock / Daredevil. I have to agree. I'm of the same camp. But that was that was one of the first times we actually got a solo Daredevil with Ben Affleck. We're not gonna count the oh god, what was his name? Was it Rex Harrison? No, not Rex Harrison, but there was a Rex maybe it was Rex Harrison who appeared as Daredevil
in the Hulk,
in the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, which was a TV movie. Which maybe that's something we review because technically we have reviewed a TV movie before. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. was an FX TV movie in 1998. Yeah. So, but guys, until next time,
watch your head as you guys exit the portal, and we'll see you next time.
Take it easy, guys. Be well, be safe, and don't forget to message us on all of our socials. Outer Dimension or Outer Dim Pod on Twitter, Outer Dimension Podcast on Instagram, and of course, Outer Dimension Podcast at gmail.com. So until next time, catch you on the flip side, guys.
Peace, y'all.